All right. How is everyone doing? Welcome back to the Joshua Earp YouTube channel where I have a very special guest today, Mr. Naeem al-Obaidi. And we're going to be covering our Bitcoin price prediction and a few things you need to watch out for. So make sure you stay till the end of this live so that you can see exactly the case that we're going to make on why we believe Bitcoin could either be bearish or bullish. So the first thing I want to do is, before we bring Naeem on, which, by the way, his description, or I should say his channel link is in the description below, so make sure to subscribe to his channel. And here on the daily chart, we're seeing something very interesting. So obviously we've been in this parallel channel for quite some time. Every time we've broken above the parallel channel, we've always came below it and retested previous lows or close to previous lows. Now it's a little interesting because even though that we've been able to hit this spider line perfectly, which is at 24,700, you'll see that it still, at least on the daily chart, it still has support at the top of the channel. So what we're looking at right now, guys, is this is basically make it or break it for Bitcoin. And if this daily candle were to come below, or even I should say close below, because at 5 o'clock we have a new, around 3 hours or so, we have a new daily candle. But if this price action were to come below the top of this channel, I believe we could see further downside all the way to the weekly open at 22,500 level, and God forbid, the next target would also be around the monthly open at around 20,000. So I'm not saying we're going to get all the way down there, but I am saying if we're not able to break above this spider line, and as long as we drop below the top of this parallel channel, we can be damn sure that there is really some lower price action ahead of us. So that's it on the daily. The 4-hour chart is really not looking good. You can see right here, once again, we're still on the top of the channel. It is holding that thing, man. It is holding this thing up. This is not a Cheeto at 20K resistance, like that meme that Naeem sent me in the door lock. This is really, there's a lot of strength right now. Even though we're not going up, it's amazing how strong Bitcoin is, being at the top of the resistance like this. So very, very important stuff, guys. And also the other thing too is I'm going to go ahead and pull up the comments as well, just in case you guys want to drop anything down there as well. But that's what I'm looking at, and I drew these two white lines because we know that once there's a break of this white line right here, which corresponds with this price action right here, then we can be assured that the weekly open is most likely going to get hit. So that's what I wanted to cover. Also on the DXY, which I believe isn't even open right now, we did break this critical line. So let's go look at the daily. We did break this very critical line on the GAN fan for the DXY, but it's a little short term of a line. I really like this one a lot more because there's more historic price action. So it corresponds with the monthly open, also the 104.240 level, which has also served as resistance in the past, which we all know previous resistance turns into new support whenever an asset becomes bullish. And so that's one thing I wanted to talk about. A few other things as well, but I also want Naeem to share his screen so that he can see, or that you guys rather can see what's going on according to his analysis. So please continue.
Yeah, Josh, thank you so much for mentioning that we are still facing major resistance right now. And as I pull up my chart, what you're going to see is that we truly are still facing major resistance because we do not have a full confirmation above the $24,295 level. And so until and if we get that confirmation, we cannot assume that we have found a breakout here. So what we're seeing right now is a rejection so far on the 4-hour candle of 24,300. And this right here is a textbook rejection, almost a bearish engulfing. And so I think that with this daily candle, we may be asking for too much to expect this to follow through with the candle closing here in less than 3 hours. But with our daily candle coming up on Sunday, I think that that's going to be a make it or break it for Bitcoin, because that's going to not just be a new daily candle, but it's going to be what determines the monthly close and the weekly close. And so that's going to be really the make it or break it for Bitcoin. In the next 24 hours, if we're not able to get above 24,300, as you mentioned, the weekly open here would be that next level of support at 22,600. If we lose 23,795, we could certainly expect us to come down to that weekly open. So Bitcoin is in a very undecided area here. This is a very critical level, and we are still facing major resistance. We do not have a confirmation of a breakout. And so what do you do at a major resistance? Well, that's where you'll probably assume a lot of short positions are being taken. And the first time we came to test 24,000, that worked out quite well because we came all the way back down to 20,800, the previous weekly open. So this is our second go around. That could be considered a little bit bullish that we're back here for a second time. The equity markets are giving Bitcoin the green light to push above 24,300, but we've just yet to see Bitcoin gain some performance against the S&P 500 yet, and that's why we have yet to break 24,300. We're still underperforming the equity markets, but we're having the green light this weekend to see this move to the upside with the way the S&P 500 closed, the way the NASDAQ closed, the way Ethereum's price action has been. And so this is a make it or break it for Bitcoin. If there isn't truly an invisible force holding Bitcoin down here at this resistance, then I don't see a reason that we wouldn't break out to 28,000 in the next 24 hours. But if we're not able to break out in the next 24 hours, that's going to be pushing the time a little bit too far, in my opinion, because if equity markets pull back, that could be the bull trap there where Bitcoin does fall back down towards that previous weekly open at 20,800. So it's going to be a make it or break it here in the next 24 hours. I really think that so far we have to be very clear with the fact that Bitcoin has not got a confirmation of a breakout. It rejected your spider line, Josh, and on my chart, the resistance level has yet to give us a full 4-hour candle confirmation. And so both of those right there tell us that we are still facing this as a major resistance level, and that maybe long positions that came in here expecting a breakout are now trapped. So we could have trapped some bulls here. This could be the ongoing effects of a potential bull trap. We're not going to know until we get a confirmation above 24,300. So that's what I'm monitoring there for Bitcoin. Ethereum also failing to get above 1760 so far. That's a major resistance for Ethereum. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see Ethereum find some resistance here. This is the first time that we're testing this resistance level. So garden variety market behavior would say that a resistance level is going to act like a resistance level and show resistance. The Ethereum to Bitcoin chart, it almost looks like it wants to break out further on the daily chart, getting above this resistance and holding it as support. But I've seen this happen many times before. I think that what we really have to pay attention to is this high here at 76,000 Satoshis, because we're so close to it. And so if this is truly bullish, then why don't we see this high get taken out by price action getting above this high to form a higher high? That's what I'm looking for here on the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart for a confirmation that we could be seeing continuation to the upside for this move. But so far, we just have a lower high forming here with the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart, so that could translate into further downside into next week. It's truly a decision point. I think that there are a lot of puzzle pieces giving Bitcoin the green light to see some upside, but it's failing to do so far at least, still finding resistance. The next 24 to 48 hours are going to be extremely critical, and that's all I have for today, Josh. Thank you so much for the spotlight.
Wow.
I hope that helped some of you guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'll reshare my screen. So guys, make sure to leave any comments in the chat below, and we'll make sure to answer that, or if you have any coins you want us to look at. But the interesting thing is, Naeem, now I know Bitcoin is undecided. All right, so we are in the most undecided point, I would say, of recent Bitcoin history, right? I mean, it literally, like you said, it's trapped between that resistance and the channel. And so the interesting thing is, if you had to guess, and I hate to put you on the spot, Naeem, but you're like the world expert in technical analysis, and if you don't know, then nobody knows. But the whole thing is, if you had to guess, what do you think Bitcoin's going to do? Obviously, we identified our levels, and we're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and no one really knows. But if you had to put money on the line right now, obviously I know you don't short Bitcoin, you only short altcoins, but But what would you say? Are we going up or down?
I would say this. I would say that 17,600 was certainly an area of interest to at least hold as a temporary bottom. So far, we're seeing about 40% upside from that recent bottom. And now Bitcoin has been slowing down. Ever since Tesla announced that they offloaded 75% of their Bitcoin spot holdings, Bitcoin has been struggling to outperform against the S&P 500, already closing weekly candles below its 200-week moving average several times, something that it's never done in history. And so I think because of that, if this does not break out at 24,300 and we get rejected at this resistance for a second time, that I would not be surprised for that to be the case. I would say that what that would confirm is that maybe it would be wise to start looking at long positions depending on how it gets rejected. But at this point, to take a long position at a major resistance, I think would be sort of foolish. I think that between the mid-20s and maybe even the higher range of the 20s, like 28,000, it would be smart to de-risk a little bit if you got swap positions or even leverage positions below 20,000. But you and I, Josh, we have both of those. And so I think that this would be the appropriate time to start de-leveraging and de-risking those positions now that Bitcoin has reached a resistance level. 24,300 was a very important level that we were monitoring throughout this whole consolidation before we first even came above 22,000. And so this was our initial target. And so I think that because Bitcoin spent so much time below its 200-week moving average already, the fact that we're closing this weekly candle for the first time above the 200-week moving average, it's not just a wick, this is a real body above the 200-week, that if we do see this turn out into a bottom, what we're going to want to see is price action in the next 24 hours to back the fact that this is a potential bottom. And so I think the momentum right now is very important. If we're not able to see momentum in the next 24 hours, then this probably wasn't the bottom. We could see further sideways consolidation in this range. I think the equity markets are going to be telling of that into next week. But until we break above 24,300, I can't give the full green light that this is the bottom. We break above 24,300, now we can start talking about this being the bottom. I think that's why it's such an important test right now here at this resistance level. But what I'm looking at on your chart and on my chart is that we're still facing resistance. The equity markets gave Bitcoin the green light to see further upside, but it decided not to. Bitcoin dominance is still quite low. People still believe that we're in a bear market. Are we potentially going to be seeing a sell-off where altcoins sell off quite hard and Bitcoin just doesn't sell off as much, increasing Bitcoin dominance? I think that over the last few days, from what we've learned over the last 8 months, is anytime we've seen these type of relief rallies, eventually they fade away and they wear off. And so is this another one of those times? Well, the S&P 500 was completely undecided for this monthly candle. Literally, stayed in the same exact range as our previous month's candle in June. So June and July have really pretty much been the same. Still undecided with the macroeconomic environment. Interest rates are still increasing. CPI numbers keep coming out higher and higher. And so has much really gotten better? Probably not. I would say that the only thing that's happened is that not much has changed. Maybe not as much negative news has come over the last few weeks. But we're still inside of the same hole that we've dug ourselves into here in the macroeconomic environment. So, could this be the bottom? I would say that Bitcoin right now, I mean, if it was truly bullish, why isn't it currently breaking out from 24,300, right? That's what I would say. So, in the present moment, it's still facing resistance. I want to take the chart for what it is at face value, and the tape shows resistance. And until then, we cannot confirm that this is a breakout. And if we start to break down into that weekly open and into those spider lines down below, now we're talking about 20,000 coming on the table again. And so would I be surprised for that to be the case? Not whatsoever. Not with the S&P 500 closing this monthly candle without any further highs, still inside of the same candle body as last month. So with this new monthly candle and all of the attention that we could see here in the next 24 hours to Bitcoin, I would like to see it break out if this is truly a time for Bitcoin to head towards that $28,000 level and fill that CME gap. But if it prolongs further than Sunday, I think that that would be the tall telling signs that we're losing momentum here, and that we're going to see what happened last week where the equity markets gave Bitcoin the green light, but it didn't go. It didn't have the credentials to move through. So that's my opinion.
Wow, that's a great opinion. And yeah,
I'm really glad you have your spider lines, Josh, because that really inclined me to want to go live today because, on my chart, we did break above the resistance for the hourly candles. But when I saw your chart, I was like, wow, look, we literally just wicked into that spider line and came right back around. I mean, that's what a final destination looks like, right?
Like exactly, too, And I'm seeing 2 wicks here, 2 pretty big wicks. Last time we saw a wick and then another bigger wick, look what happened. We don't. We see a wick here, an even bigger wick, hit the support or the resistance, and I think we could see the monthly open come into play. I really do, because the monthly open also has confluence with this spider line, which was the previous resistance back whenever we were down here. And keep in mind, guys, these spider lines were here way before this price action was even here. I mean, we're talking about the beginning of 2018, right? So if we look at the weekly chart, I mean, these lines go all the way back to 2018, the beginning of 2018. So like 4 to 5 years, depending on which one you're counting. So like I said, these lines were here before this price action was here, and it's just so interesting to see where it ended up. And yeah, everything you're saying I think is very valid, and it's just basically we just have to get, if you're in a short, we just have to get below this line right here. If you're in a long, I would consider taking profits, and if there is a dip, then you can just go ahead and re-enter back in. But that's really what we wanted to talk about. Let's go ahead and look at Ethereum real quick, and maybe a few altcoins, because Ethereum can also be a leading indicator with Bitcoin in this current market. And the next spot of resistance that I see, besides maybe right now, because you see this double bottom, which is acting as resistance, previous double bottom, now acting as resistance, but really it's this level of the 2000 zone. That's where I would be seeing the resistance for Ethereum, although it could dump before that. One thing I was very surprised to see was how well Cardano's holding up. I mean, when you take this yellow line in trajectory, I mean, it's holding up perfectly. So that's really interesting to see. Another thing is that I guess we'll just keep it also Bitcoin focused. A lot of us are mostly Bitcoin here. The futures for the S&P 500, looks also like it could be a double top. There's a few other revolving parts, but really the main thing for me is the DXY, which is closed, and Bitcoin, and that's basically what we're seeing. So we wanted to give you guys an update. We wanted to let you know that a lot of people don't have these spider lines drawn out, so it's hard for them to see where the true support and resistance is. But for us, we were able to identify that and take advantage of it, right? Because if you see it hitting this spider line, you could have easily taken a short and then had your stop loss somewhere above the spider line, and you're at a very, very good risk-reward situation. And so that's basically all I wanted to say. Is there anything else, Naeem, you wanted to cover?
No, I like everything, man, and I'm glad that you are putting us back to reality here, because we're still facing major resistance, no confirmation of a breakout yet. So thank you so much for the time, Josh, and amazing analysis on your part.
Awesome. Well, thank you, guys. Do not forget to subscribe to Naeem's channel in the description below. And we're going to be doing a giveaway and a few contests here in the near future. So make sure that you subscribe to Naeem's channel as well. And we will see you on the next one. So thank you, guys, and we'll see you soon.